There are many parallels between The Great Gatsby and another classic novel, The Catcher in the Rye. Both novels focus on a main character who has no real direction in life. They both had unattainable dreams and really no close family to stand by them. Holden Caulfield, the main character from The Catcher in the Rye, was in a boarding school and did not have a close relationship to his family. He wandered through life by himself. Gatsby was in East Egg and moved away from his family, rarely ever seeing them. He was by himself until Nick came along. Both were very independent characters who were not very happy with their lives or themselves. The greatest similarity between Holden and Gatsby, though, is their love life. Gatsby fantasized over the dream of being with a girl named Daisy Buchanan. Everything he did in his life was for the benefit of Daisy. He had ties to her from earlier in his life, but Tom Buchanan married her before Gatsby had a chance. Holden Caulfield cannot stop thinking about a girl that he knew earlier in his childhood named Jane Gallagher. When his roommate Stradler says he is going on a date, Holden asks Stradler, and he says, "Jane Gallagher." "Jane Gallagher? I nearly dropped dead. You're damn right I know her. She practically lived next door to me, the summer before last. She had this big damn Doberman Pinscher. That's how I met her. The dog used to keep coming over, and our..." Stradler cuts him off and is like Tom Buchanan for stealing Holden's dream of winning Jane over. Holden remembers and knows everything about Jane, including the fact that she wanted to become a dancer, loves playing checkers, and that she worried that her legs would become too thick. Gatsby acts in a similar fashion towards Daisy. On page 91, he hadn't once ceased looking at Daisy, and I think he revalued everything in his house according to the measure of response it drew from her well-loved eyes. Sometimes, too, he stared around at his possessions in a dazed way, as though in her actual and astounding presence, none of it was any longer real. Once he nearly toppled down a flight of stairs. In the end, their dreams of being with these lovers are shattered and ultimately leads to their demise. Gatsby ends up dying, and Holden ends up in a mental hospital. Before they hit their breaking points, they realize what is not attainable. Gatsby knows Daisy is all about herself, on page 134. But with every word, she was drawing farther and farther into herself, so he gave that up, and only the dead dream fought on as the afternoon slipped away. Holden knows he will never get Jane and realizes his mistake, overliving the past months in a daze as he watches the carousel go round and round at the zoo, just as his life did, getting nowhere, passing him by when Jane was not interested in him.
The song When a Man Loves a Woman by Percy Sledge can be directly connected to the relationship between the characters Jay Gatsby and Daisy Buchanan from Fitzgerald's book The Great Gatsby. Lyrics in this song can be interpreted to fit how Gatsby and Daisy interact in the story. "He'll trade the world for the good thing he's found" can be related to Gatsby putting all his effort and energy into winning over Daisy instead of becoming the greater things he could have. "She can bring him such misery" can be related to Gatsby not accepting that Daisy loved Tom once. Him loving Daisy ultimately brought him misery and his demise. "If she plays him for a fool, he's the last one to know, loving eyes can never see." Gatsby always thought of Daisy of pure and good, yet Daisy didn't seem to appreciate that Gatsby took the blame and died all because of her. Daisy went on with her life, acting like she never heard of what happened to Gatsby. When a man loves a woman can possibly be an exact description of Gatsby's character.
Coming almost 20 years after The Great Gatsby, the movie Casablanca shares similar character attributes and conflict. Similar to Jay Gatsby and Daisy Buchanan, Rick Blaine and Ilsa Lund live together as lovers in a past life. Both driven apart by a great war, the two main characters refuse to accept that their once lover is now living happily with another man. As Fitzgerald states on page 152, he came back from France when Tom and Daisy were still on their wedding trip, and made a miserable but irresistible journey to Louisville on the last of his army pay. He stayed there a week, walking the streets where their footsteps had clicked together through the November night, and revisiting the out-of-the-way places to which they had driven in her white car, just as Daisy's house had always seemed to him more mysterious and gay than other places. So his idea of the city itself, even though she was gone from it, was pervaded with a melancholy beauty. This shows that Jay Gatsby is living in the past, clinging on to a life he once knew because he refuses to accept how things in the present have turned out. This theme causes the main plot conflict in both stories. Taking place in 1940s France, Rick Blaine thought his life was complete as he lived happily with whom he thought was his soulmate, Ilse Lund. Then, Nazi Germany started an occupation of France separating the two. Blaine now takes refuge in Casablanca, reflecting on what his life once was, similarly to how Gatsby has taken refuge.
Went along with the sound of a tinny piano playing in the parlor downstairs. Mister, I met a man once when I was a kid. It always begin. Well, I guess neither one of our stories is very funny. Tell me, who was it you left me for? Was it Laszlo, or were there others in between? Or aren't you the kind that tells?